Um, Hello, everybody. Today we're going to talk about the holiday checklist. With Q4 being the busiest quarter for a lot of agencies and clients who primarily work with e-commerce as a background. This is a session that can help you identify tools within Optmyzr that can help you stay on top of this busy season, prepare for the holiday season that's upcoming closer to your Black Friday and Christmas periods, and get everything up and ready for the season. All right, let's begin the session. I have put forth a series of slides where we will segment the session into three parts. The first part is going to be a general overview on some of the things that you can do in terms of monitoring and maintaining your account. For example, we will talk about how you can set up alerts for your accounts. When we talk about alerts, we can talk about the different types of metric alerts that you can set up, the kind of budget monitoring that you can do for the account. Moving on from that, we will understand why these metrics or budgets are performing a particular way, right? And lastly, we will also cover a couple of optimizations that can help you, save yourself some cost and save yourself some time. This is the first segment of the session, which is a very general overview of some of the things that you can do. Moving on, we have two other segments. The second segment is a search-only specific segment where we will talk about a couple of insights that you can start using to identify gaps within your accounts or analyze search terms within your accounts to see what would be the best way of going or maintaining your account. Moving on from that, we will take a look at how you can use one of our key optimizations, Rule Engine, to automate functionalities that are repetitive in nature. And lastly, we will take a look at the URL checker that helps you identify broken landing pages. And the last segment of this session is going to be a shopping only session that will cover how you can create and maintain your performance max or standard shopping campaigns, along with a quick tip on how you can analyze your existing shopping campaigns. Right? That's going to be about the session. Now, moving on, let's get into the first segment, which is a general overview of things. Right? Today I have a demo account with me, so please bear with me in terms of the results that you will see across tools. Some of them may not really have the right kind of visualizations, but I will do my best to explain how you can, actually use the tool to make things work for your business. All right. The first thing that we think is really important is to monitor your account at a KPI level. Now, what I mean by that is you could be having a target CPA that makes sense for the shopping season, right? Or you may have a CPA because of a budget constraint, or you may want to monitor your conversion data based on historic patterns. Now, that's where comes into picture the alert monitoring that we have within the tool. So when you hover over any metric, for example, let us say you have a target cost per acquisition that you tend to maintain, you can simply hover over that metric and add an alert. Now, by default, the system can take an automatic average for that metric, or you can specify a value of your choice. So let us say you want to target $5 per conversion. That's the maximum that you can go up to. You can specify that, and you can also give us a deviation on this. Now, the beauty of this tool or this feature is that you will now get alerted whenever there's a discrepancy or whenever there's a deviation from this particular value that you have given us. So if there is something awfully wrong about within the account where your clicks are dropping all of a sudden, or your conversions are off track, or your cost per conversion is shooting up, whatever may be the use case, you will get alerted about it by assigning yourself over from here, right? So that's how you can monitor your accounts. Now, taking the same concept of setting up an alert at a KPI level a step further, we have a dedicated tool under the insights, and that's called the alerts. Within the alerts tool, you can go a little more granular in terms of managing them at a campaign level, a bid strategy level, a label level, etc. Right? And the way to do that is to create a new alert. And you could either be creating a single account alert, which is a metric alert, or you could be creating a budget alert. So we'll get to the budget part in just a bit. Let's elaborate the discussion a little on the single account part. So I'll select a single account alert. The advantage again of using the alerts tool is that instead of on the dashboard where you had to set up alerts for each individual metric for each individual account manually time and again, here you can overcome that by selecting multiple accounts at once. And another advantage is that this is a tool that works cross-platform, so you can combine accounts across Google, Microsoft, and Facebook as well, right? So you can select accounts that way and set up alerts in bulk. So that's one key feature of this tool. The other feature is where you can select an account. Now, instead of an account level setup, let's say you want to do it at a campaign level. Now, a good example could be to understand this from the perspective of setting up brand campaigns versus non-brand campaigns, or brand versus generic campaigns, or maybe you have funneled out your campaign structure. So there are different types that you tend to monitor in general. So you can use your structure to monitor campaigns. So instead of monitoring all of them at once, you can monitor the brand campaigns that make sense, or maybe just do it for the video campaign, or whatever makes sense. You select those, and the rest of the process remains more or less the same. You select the metric that you're trying to track. Let's say conversions is what you're looking to track this time, and you can select the account, the team members who. The other addition is that you can add multiple team members who can get alerted about it, and whether we should consider an automatic average for conversions, which is usually an 8-week average, or do you have a specific value in your mind that you'd like to share with us? One last additional feature here is the number of recent days to ignore. This comes into play when you tend to notice discrepancies or time lag in reporting of your conversion metrics, right? Usually that is the case with Google. So to overcome that, you can choose to exclude a day or two from the analysis so that you're always getting alerted for the right kind of metrics at the right kind of scope. As mentioned earlier, some of the other scopes we support are label, campaign type, bid, strategy, in addition to account and campaign. So these are some of the different types of alerts that you can directly set up from Optmyzr using the alerts tool. The second kind of alerts that you can set up or monitor are the budget alerts, right? Now, a lot of times you may run into budget issues where, monitoring them is a problem. Your budgets may be overshooting, or you may actually be underspending the budgets in comparison to what you already have access to. So to actually understand the pacing of your budgets, this is a really good place to look at, where you can create a client. So let me call this test 1. And let's select the account, or accounts rather. Again, as mentioned earlier, this is compatible cross-platform. So if you have a client, for example, in this case, I have Optmyzr across 2 different platforms. So I could have combined them if I have a combined budget. Or on the flip side, let's say I wanted to combine 2 different Google Ads accounts that are across different regions into one segment. So I can combine them in any which way I want, or I can use them just alone as well, right? So all the combinations that make sense are possible here. You can give us a standard time zone, a standard currency that makes sense for that account, and the team member or team members who should get notified about it. In the next step, you can create a budget group. So you can, I will just call this test 1 again. And now here is the advantage. Instead of actually tracking all of them, if you want to track a few of them where, let's say the Avenue campaigns that you can see here share one kind of a budget. So they fall into one budget group. Or I could actually have the ones combined between Google and Microsoft, right? So the use case can vary, but the combinations of budgets, so the number of budget groups you can create is something that is at your perusal. And yeah, so actually I believe I didn't submit that. So let me just submit that. Right. And you can also give the target monthly budget that you have. So let's say I have a target monthly budget of $3,000. And now comes the interesting part. Now, you can choose to get notified when the budget hits 50, 75, or 90% of the target, or you can choose to also get an email when the target is hit. So these are the two different kinds of alerts that you can get, either 50, 75, or 90%, or when the entire target is hit. And lastly, you can also choose to pause the campaign or campaigns or the account or the budget group, whatever you've selected. You can choose to pause it the moment it actually hits your target budget. And you can also re-enable it at the start of the next budget cycle. As and when it starts making sense, our tool will re-enable those campaigns so that they start functioning again. You just need to hit the save button and the budget alert is set up. So yes, these are two different kinds of alerts that you can set up. And in terms of budget alerts, we also have a couple of budget scripts that you may want to look at, especially the flexible budgets and the reach target monthly spend scripts, two of our most popular scripts that we've seen a lot of users use. And you'll also be happy to hear that we support all of our scripts on the new experience, and that's not just limited to the budget script. So all the scripts that we currently have are actually compatible with both the old script experience and the new experience. So you don't really have to do much if you already have pre-set up scripts. The scripts will continue to run as usual. One last interesting bit about the alerts tool is that you can integrate them with Slack and Microsoft Teams. So if you're using within your organization Slack or Microsoft Teams, this tool is compatible with those two options. So instead of getting all these alerts over email, if you would rather prefer that they come over Slack or Microsoft, you can integrate them. So you can either directly integrate it from within the tool, or the other way is to go to the settings and users page. And here you have the integration for Slack and Microsoft Teams, and you can follow the steps to integrate the tools. And if at any point you're stuck in the process, not just with these tools, with any tools for that matter, you can always reach out to us at support@optmyzr.com, and our team will be happy to guide you on the steps to get things set up. Right. So that was the first part on how you can set up alerts. Right. Now, extrapolating the same logic, so far we saw how you can set up alerts for metrics, which is to basically identify problems within key performance indicators that you tend to track. So if there's a problem with your clicks or with your conversions, how do you really analyze that? So that's where we jump into the next concept, which is under the insights. We have a tool called PPC Investigator. Right? PPC Investigator is a tool that lets you ask the system certain questions. For example, you can say, why did my clicks or conversions or impressions or any other KPI here change in one particular time duration when compared to a different duration? So I can compare currently the last 30 days with that of the previous period. You will see a cost chart of this nature, which tries to explain the reasoning behind why clicks changed. So if you notice, clicks here has dropped by almost 78% across these two periods. And that can directly be attributed to a drop in my impressions. And impressions further are dependent on search query volume and search query loss due to rank, right? So these are all the factors that are contributing, along with the average CPC, that are contributing to a drop in my clicks. So the idea now is for me to drill down to the bottommost level. In this case, the idea is to fix my rank or impression share due to rank, which can have a positive impact on my impressions, which can further impact my clicks positively. So that's how you read the chart. And if you want to go a step further, we also have something called root cause analysis. So if I step into the root cause analysis, while it loads up, it's a combination of positive or negative top movers that are making sense for your business. So if you notice here, this particular keyword, Google Ads, the combination of just Google Ads is driving down my clicks. So that's probably for me to take an action on the keyword. Now, at the same time, because as I mentioned earlier, this is a tool that does not really have too much, this is an account that does not have too much data, but you will see interesting combinations as well. For example, this particular campaign has not worked with this keyword, or this particular campaign on X devices or mobile devices has low clicks or high clicks. So you will also get these interesting combinations that are actually working well or not working well for you, based on which you can take a decision on what to do. Right. So that's about the PPC Investigator. And The second part that we spoke about in terms of alert management was about budget management, right? So we spoke about how you can track budgets, how you can understand pacing of budgets. So in line with that, we have a tool called spend projection currently, because in this account there's really no trend that's shown, because there's actually no spend associated with it. But you will see an interesting chart. Now actually, let's try to understand it at this level, right? So if you look at it now on a day-to-day basis, October 16th, 18th, 19th, 20th, you can see that the tool is making a projection for that particular day based on the historic patterns that this account has gone through, the recent trends that have been happening, or any other criteria that we have to take into consideration. Now, it is possible that if you have a budget of $3,000, it is possible that on 22nd you may end up spending higher than expected because of a previous trend along that direction, right? So that's what this tool tells you at each point. It tells you what could be the maximum and the minimum projection for that day, and the actual projection that could have happened for that day, and that comes from the daily part that we have. So using this data, or using this extrapolation of the data, you can understand what the required daily budget is to actually hit your target, or how do you control the budget that has already been overused, right? So this is the kind of analysis that you can do to understand whether you can reallocate your budgets, or whether you should dial down or dial back on your budgets. And all of that is possible using the Optmyzr budgets tool that you can see as a hyperlink. So you analyze the tool, analyze the budget projections using this tool, and if there is scope to increase or modify your budgets, you choose the Optmyzr budgets tool. Right. So that was most of the general set of things that we would recommend at the insight level. Now I'll jump into the optimization section. Now within optimizations, we recommend two different tools. One is called the account level placement exclusion, and the other is called URL checker, which I will get into in just a bit. Now, account level placement exclusion is a very, very interesting tool when you're running campaigns on different channels like Performance Max or Smart Display, or Smart Shopping, which is no longer applicable, but display campaigns in general itself, right? So when you're running campaigns on these three different channels, or any channel where placement is involved, an account level exclusion makes perfect sense if it's not really converting for you. So if this placement is costing you, the placement could be an app, it could be a website, it could be a YouTube channel. So if either of these are costing you a significant amount of money but not really converting, then you can exclude them at the account level, thereby saving yourself that much amount of cost, right? So right now, again, I don't have any suggestions, but you can also define what is the cost. Now I can say, if my placements are costing me more than $12 in a 90-day window but not converting, give me the list of all such apps, give me the list of all such websites, give me the list of all these YouTube channels and videos, and with just one click you will be able to exclude all the changes, right? So that's a very interesting tool that you can look at. And a similar tool but at an ad group level is the mobile apps exclusion tool, which works with just mobile apps but at an ad group level. So these are the two different tools that can help you save yourself that cost, because what we have observed is that a lot of times there's a lot of cost associated. So at an aggregate level, users tend to lose out on almost thousands of dollars just because of placements being targeted in the wrong areas. So excluding them can always help you save time. And that is a process you can also automate using Rule Engine. So if you have any questions around that, if you want a step-by-step guide on how to get there, you can reach out to us, and we'll be happy to help. All right. So moving on to the, I believe I mentioned URL checker earlier. We will cover that in a different segment. For now, I will talk about campaign experiments that you see here, which can be a really handy tool to work with, given that you may be running experiments in this quarter or you may be doing an A/B test on the different tools just to identify which ones make sense, which ones don't make sense, what kind of ads you should be targeting, which campaigns are the ones that you should prioritize, so on and so forth, right? So if you're running experiments across different accounts, especially when you're an agency or when you're even an individual client managing quite a few accounts, it may become cumbersome to go into each individual account and run through the experiment, analyze individual experiments and see which ones are good, which ones are bad, and then take a call. This can be a time consuming process and also a tedious process, and that's where our tool comes into picture, where we will show you all your active experiments across all of your active accounts. So they will all start getting populated over here, and you can then easily analyze all individual experiments, so see how that makes sense. Based on ROAS, the experiment is actually not good, right? So it's not performing. So you can also see the analysis period. So if that makes sense, based on your analysis, you can also take an action, which could either be to update the original campaign or convert this to a new campaign, or also end the experiment. So if this does not seem to be working, I could also choose to end the experiment and submit the changes. So you can do this from a single place for all of your accounts all at once. So that's how this tool can help you. So this concludes segment 1. So just to reiterate quickly, we spoke about how you can set up alerts or monitor your KPIs at a metric or a budget level. And when you notice discrepancies or to identify patterns, you can use a couple of our insights called spend projection and PPC investigator. Moving on from that point, you can we also spoke about how you can use a placement tool to exclude non-converting high costing placements at an account level to save yourself that recurring cost. And also lastly, we spoke about the experiments tool that can help you bulk analyze all your experiments from a single place. Moving on to segment 2, we will focus specifically on some search related segments or search related tools that you can start looking at for in Q4, right? And to get better prepared for your shopping season, right? So here goes segment 2. So in the insights tool, we have a particular, in the insights section, we have a tool called search terms engrams. And it's a very, very interesting tool in the sense that it lays out all of your search queries in a word cloud. Now, it will start looking even more interesting when you have a lot more queries coming in. So you will see a lot more data than just what you're seeing right now. And the idea is that you segregate this based on 2 different metrics. The size of a query is dependent on the first metric, which could, for example, be impressions. And the depth of the color or the density of the color that you see could depend on the second metric. So let's say I do a CTR analysis. Now, I can do this aggregation at a single, bi, tri, quadra, 5, 6 levels as well, right? So that's what we call as grams. So you can aggregate the data by combinations of 1, 2, 3 words, where if the word has repeated in a statement, or in any number of statements, we always pull out that combination and aggregate the data to show you how much of it is relevant. So if I observe here, Google here has had quite a few impressions, and this is the CTR against that particular query. So if this makes sense to me, I can continue to have it like that. Or if there's a trending query that I'm not already targeting, I can use this information to target it. But if this does not make sense, in this case, I'm assuming that this CTR is really low for this particular query, and for me, it's not a high performer. It's actually bringing down my costs, or actually costing me too much. So I can add it as a negative keyword. Now, I can also do this same analysis at a tabular level, and I can take bulk actions against it. So I can select multiple words at once and add them all to a shared negative list in a match type that makes sense. So you can either add it in a phrase, exact, or broad match, and you will notice that they will all be added to a list that makes sense to you. You can either add these lists, add them to an existing list, or you can create your own new list. Okay. So that is about the search terms engrams. And this, like we said, when we're aggregating it, this is account level data. Now, if you want the data broken down at individual campaign and ad group level, you can also download the data at a campaign or an ad group level using the download option. Moving on to the next interesting tool, it's the audits tool, which is one of the most interesting tools that we have here at Optmyzr. Now, the audit, as the name indicates, is a way for you to go through your account, identify what's really good, what's really bad, where is there a gap, where is there an opportunity for you to fix for it. For example, you can have opportunities at a campaign level, at an ad group level, at an ad level, a keyword level, right? So you have a bunch of different scopes, and underneath each of these scopes you have a bunch of different audits. For example, you could probably pull a list of all the ad groups that have too many keywords, right? That is one kind of an audit that you can run. So, and you can tell us what is too many. So maybe 15 is too many or 25 is too many. So you can update the number, or you can pull the list of ad groups that have too many or too few responsive search ads. So given that Google is focusing extremely more on RSAs, you want to ensure that you have at least one RSA. So you want to analyze them, analyze all those ad groups that don't have RSAs in them, right? Or if you want to identify keywords that are conflicting in nature, so under the negative keywords, you have conflicting keywords. So something that is present both as a positive and as a negative is something that this will flag. So there are a bunch of different audits this way that can help you identify gaps in your account. So enable only those that make sense for your business, save that and run the audit. All right. Right. So it looks like, yeah, okay, it's loaded up. Now, as you can see, what's interesting is that this account has a grade at its own level, and each of the individual audits also have a grade against them. Now, a good example is right now here you can see that none of the campaigns are losing impression share due to budget. That's a very good thing. And this also complements our story from the PPC investigator that we saw earlier, where we were only losing impression share due to rank, but not due to budget, right? So that's all in sync. But let us assume that you were losing impression share due to budget. So that would mean that this would have been a lower grade. So you can also see that we're recommending a tool in this case. So you can use the optimized budgets tool that we also spoke about briefly earlier. You can use that tool to reallocate your budgets and actually recover that lost ground. Right? You have 4 ad groups that have duplicate ads here. You can check the list of those ad groups. You can also click on them to get a deeper overview of the ad group and its settings and what lies underneath it. You have a bunch of URLs that have a problem, so on and so forth. So identify a problem within the account, and that is something you can fix using our corresponding optimizations or insight tools. These audits can also be scheduled to run on an automation. So let me just save this. And once I hit the schedule button, I can run these automations on a weekly or a monthly basis. And instead of me having to come back to the tool time and again, the audits will come on to my inbox instead. So that was a couple of interesting search related checklists or tools that you can check out from the insights section. Moving on to the optimizations, one key core feature that we would encourage you to check out is the rule engine. Now, we have a bunch of different one-click optimizations for different scopes. For example, for keyword management, we have a bunch of tools. For bid management, we have a bunch of tools. For ad management, we have a bunch of tools. So each of these tools is going to give you suggestions based on a particular goal. And if those suggestions look good, you can apply the changes. If those don't look good, you can archive them. So that is the idea, right? But what if you have a specific alert in your mind, a specific optimization in your mind, a specific bid management technique that you have in your mind? That's where comes into picture the rule engine, which is a little versatile in nature and helps you create your own custom versions of strategies. And all of that can be automated. So if there's an activity that you're repeating time and again, then using the rule engine, you can automate that functionality. That's how this tool can help you. So when you add a strategy, you can either create your own strategy from scratch, or you can pick something that Optmyzr has pre-created. And we would encourage you to really start with this section, because these are some pre-curated and pre-created strategies that we sort through and understood from different users on based on their use cases. We've built them around. So you can check out that for different scopes. So if my goal was to optimize for keywords, we have some. If my goal is to optimize for ads, I have a bunch. If it's reduce cost, I have a bunch of strategies. So different scopes that make sense for you are already here. So for example, in today's demo, let's take a look at a rule that can help us identify quickly a list of all ads that are disapproved. So under the optimize ads section, I have a bunch of different categories. I can monitor the ad strength of my RSAs, a very, very interesting strategy to look at. I can identify ad copies that are seeing a decline in their click-through rate, or I could also get a report of my disapproved ads. So moving on to the next step, you can rename it to anything that makes sense to you. And now that you already understand what this tool does, you could either directly jump into the suggestions, or you could get some control. Now, getting control really means that you are actually redirected into the rules part of it, where you can actually play around with the rules, identify the right combination that actually makes sense for your account, and based on that particular combination of rules, you take a corresponding action. So that's where this really gets interesting, right? So it gives you the leverage to play around with the tools capabilities. So if you observe, we're running this tool on all these different types of ads, RSAs, expanded text ads, etc. And if the status of it is disapproved, but ad state is enabled, and this is a campaign that's an eligible campaign, you get a report of it. Now, I could have always customized this by adding more conditions. So based on the scope that you're working with, which could be so based on the scope that you start off with, there will be different changes here. So right now I can work at an ad group campaign or account level. So for example, if I want to limit it to only a particular campaign name where they're disapproved, I could say if campaign name contains a particular word, or campaign name is equal to a particular string. So I could have customized it that way, or similarly at an ad group state. Or if I'm trying to look at, RSAs being low in my account. So at the RSA level, I have an ad group count. So if RSAs are not present, this is an attribute I could use to, get the list. You have some performance metrics like clicks, impressions, costs, CTR, etc., that you can use to identify problems in your account, or to identify the performance of your different campaigns and ad groups. So that's how you can. And lastly, you also have custom conversions. So this is the granularity of the tool, where it gives you the flexibility to use or combine metrics from so many different places. You can use your custom conversions, you can use your normal conversions. If you manage SA360, you could have used your SA360 metrics. If you have data on a spreadsheet, then you could pull that data through a spreadsheet. So you have a spreadsheet column, and all the attributes will start showing up here. So a lot of customizations are really possible here. So you can create rules accordingly, and you can also take corresponding actions. So now you could either get a report, a status, modify label, or also find and replace ad text. So if you're looking to bulk update the text of your ad, you can do that using R2. And lastly, you can view suggestions, and it's natural. If we don't get any suggestions, it's expected. But if we do get suggestions, then that's something that you can easily review. And this entire process can be automated. So once this page loads up, I'll quickly show you how how will it show up. So if you actually see, this is how the suggestions show up. So for this ad group and campaign, you have a disapproved ad, and so on and so forth, right? And this is the ad type. So right now, because we don't really have any changes to make and we're just getting the report, the apply now is disabled. But if you were taking a different action, if you were to apply a label or something, this will be enabled. And lastly, you can automate this process, where you can run it on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, where you either just get notified about it, or you also choose to apply the automation. So a good way to start off with the automations is to just get notified either over email, or if you have Slack integration set up, you can get those alerts on Slack. And once you start noticing that this combination of rules is actually making sense for you, and you don't really have to manually intervene in this concept anymore, you can also apply the changes if that's the kind of tool that you're working with. Or lastly, you can also export them onto a spreadsheet. So that is about the rule engine. This was just one simple use case that we've taken a look at, but the use cases are plenty with this tool. So I would encourage you to test them. If you have any use cases, please share them with us, and we'll be happy to help you with creating these rules or helping you guide you on how you can create these rules. Right. The last tool in this segment is under the optimizations for utility tools, which is the URL checker. Now, more often than not, we tend to run into URL issues where a landing page is broken, which is that means to say that it leads to a 404 error, or it may lead to a piece of text like product is out of stock or product is not found, or anything that could cause a bad experience for a user. This is a tool that can help you easily identify them the moment they're broken, and using that information, you can fix them and re-enable them, right? So in terms of URLs so in terms of running the automation, you add a new setting, give it a name, define the kind of URLs you're looking at. So are you looking to pause, add URLs, keyword URLs, or site link URLs, or all of them? Whether you want to run this in preview mode or apply mode. The difference between the two is that when you run in an apply mode, you can pause these. You can choose to take certain actions. So I can choose to pause the ads where the URL is broken, or I can choose to pause the keywords where the URL is broken. And the best part is I can also re-enable them the moment I fix them, right? So that's how this automation works. By default, the tool is going to look at 404 errors. So you have additional filter levels where you can filter them based on campaign names or exclude campaign names, filter by the number of clicks. And like I said, in addition to 404 errors, if you want to monitor a text like out of stock or product not found, you can do that. Apart from 404 errors, if you want to track 301, 302, 501, 505, whatever it is, you can mention those response codes here. And lastly, define the automation frequency, whether you want to run it on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. And you can also give us a spreadsheet of your choice if that's where you want an input of all the results where we notify you about the broken ones, or simply type in the word new, and we will generate a new spreadsheet with the result of all the URLs that are broken that you need to spend some time on. And yeah, you can get notifications over email, and that's about it. You said done, and that's the automation that's ready. So this concludes segment 2, which was specific to just search network or search campaigns rather. So just a quick reiteration on the same. We spoke about how you can use the search terms engrams tool to identify queries that are actually trending or queries that are not relevant to your business and negating them. We saw the audits tool that can help you identify problem areas within an account that you can fix. We noticed that in using the rule engine, you can customize and optimize for your account based on some automations that you can set up. And lastly, the URL checker that can, where you don't have to worry about constantly monitoring your URLs, and you will rather automatically get alerted about them whenever there's an issue. Right. In the last segment, we will focus on how to manage your shopping campaigns, or and given that it is Q4 where you have a lot of e-commerce movement happening, users are actually looking to buy products all the time because they're planning for their holidays, they're planning to gift their close ones. So that's something that you can manage with our tool. So yeah, here goes the last segment of this session, segment 3, which is specific to shopping. The first tool in this segment is the shopping analysis tool that you will find under the insights and right over here, right? Shopping analysis is a very, very interesting tool because it helps you combine combinations in terms of metrics that are coming from your performance data along with the feed attributes. So for example, I could combine the price points. So I could combine the different prices that I have in my feed to see the kind of conversions I have for them, or what are the kind of, for example, let's say I have 20 different brands. For those kind of brands, what kind of conversions do I have? Or for the conversions that I'm getting, what is the kind of ROAS that I'm having? So different combinations that actually make sense across the combinations is what you can put together. So for today, let me take a simple example of just price. Just maybe you just want to aggregate data by price, right? Just to see what are the different price points and what is the aggregation against them. So you can see that for a price point of 0 to 12, you have 130 products, and an aggregated level, these are the kinds of impressions, clicks, costs, etc. against them. Similarly, for all the other combinations of price points, you have the number of products against them, and you can see the data against them. You can append this by the item ID that if you want, which is a standard attribute, or if you're trying to, for example, look at an age group or a color based and the rows against that color, all the different combinations that you can actually think of is what you can analyze using this tool. And if something makes sense out of it, if you're able to bid against it, you can use our shopping tools to bid on that combination as well. So under the optimizations for shopping campaigns, we have something called shopping attribute bidder. So if you're running a standard shopping campaign, especially, you can actually use the attribute bidder to extrapolate this logic and actually update your bids on your high performers or decrease bids on your low performers. So that's how you can analyze, and you can also use the rule engine to get reports of what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, so on and so forth. Moving on to the next interesting tool for shopping management, it's the campaign builder. Now, campaign builder is a very, very interesting tool because it makes your shopping creation easy. If you have to actually create a campaign in Google Ads, it can take you quite a long amount of time to actually get that whole thing to set up and running right now. Especially now that you also have PMAX campaigns, you have standard campaigns. Creating different types of campaigns can also, leave you with a lot to work on and very little time within your hands, right? That's where comes into picture the campaign builder, where within minutes you can easily create new shopping campaigns. So let's quickly see how you can do that, right? You can select the feed that makes sense. You can either create a standard or a PMAX campaign. Now, for example, if I in the standard section, I can see that my brand coverage is good. So I can also analyze my feed from here. Almost all my products have a brand associated with them. They have a color associated with them. I can see the customer attributes, the item IDs, etc. So let's say I want to create a standard campaign for a different combination of brands. So I can create it for brand and create multiple campaigns for brands. Now I can also append this data based on item ID if I want, and create a combination of brand plus item ID. So this becomes a single product ad group structure. And I skipped one of the levels because it's where you just give the budget that you have, which you can also and you can also have some campaign settings. You can also share these budgets or update these budgets over here. Okay, that's my keyboard acting weirdly, but please excuse me for that. But yeah, all right. I'm sorry about that. Right. So I can move on to the next step, and this is how you will see your campaign split out, where you have your campaigns, you have your ad groups, and under that ad group, you have your product, which is the item ID. So you can go down to bidding at this particular item ID level as well. So you can apply the changes where you can apply them only once or also automate the functionality. We will talk about the automation features in just a bit. So this is how you can create a standard campaign where you can create them in bulk, right? So you've essentially in just a minute or two, we've created 300, 400 campaigns all at once. The same logic holds true even for PMAX. You can create PMAX campaigns. Here it can get tricky based on the number of campaigns you want to create. So earlier we created 389 standard campaigns all at once in 2 minutes. Now the same logic cannot really translate at a PMAX level because there's a set of limitation in terms of the number of campaigns you can create with PMAX, a number of asset groups you can create with PMAX, number of listing groups you can create. So a good example in this case would be to rather use the channel. And based on my feed here, this makes more sense. But based on your feed, you could use a different combination. So you can create a single campaign for channel along with a single asset. Again, this is the setting that I skipped where you can actually give your target ROAS. Earlier, it would have been the manual CPC. You can give the daily budget that you have, the feed labels that you need to target, the countries that you want to target, and naming conventions in terms of how you want your campaign to be named. And in the next step, you will again get a summary. It's one campaign. This is the budget against it. This is the number of listing groups getting created. And if you have multiple campaigns, you can also give different targets for them if that makes more sense. And you can again review the entire structure. And if this looks good, you can go ahead and apply the changes to your account. So that's how you can easily create campaigns using the builder. And the last tool for this discussion on the shopping checklist is the product group refresher that you'll again find under the shopping campaign section. It's also called the shopping campaign refresher 2.0, which essentially helps you keep your merchant feed in sync with your shopping campaigns or vice versa, which means to say that if there are changes in your merchant feed, let's assume that in the feed I have 1,000 products, but tomorrow I have 10 more new additions, which means I actually have to accommodate those into my existing campaigns or actually create new campaigns. But automating this functionality would actually save you that much amount of time in terms of setting them or moving them across, because the tool will automatically do that for you. So if there's a product that needs a campaign that needs to go into an existing campaign, that will automatically happen. So I can simply start. So if I had a build out, I could have selected that. Or if you have existing campaigns that you want to work on, you can use the second option, select the campaign. And if you want to manually run it, if there are suggestions, you will see them in the next step. And if there are errors, you will see those as well. So that's a good point, because you actually have to ensure that your structure is in sync, which means to say that it has to be uniform across ad groups and campaigns. So you should have a uniform structure in order to refresh things, because that's the pattern that we look at when we are automating it, right? So you can automate the functionality. Right now it's locked because I'm in a demo account, but you should have access to it. So go ahead and automate this functionality to run on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, because at that frequency, it actually helps you analyze the feed. And if there's any changes in your merchant feed data, your shopping campaigns are actually updated in real time. So that is how you can actually speeden up the process on managing your shopping campaign. So it's a very interesting segment. I hope so. And that also concludes the Learn with Optmyzr session for today. I hope I was able to share some interesting tidbits on tools that you can use and how you can use them to stay on top this shopping season. And if you have any questions at any point, feel free to write to us at support@optmyzr.com, and our team will get back to you with a resolution. Right. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a good day.